what am I on? Listen, there's so many things we be on, Lakeisha. I'm just like, wait a minute, what am I on? But you know what? This is the We Shine Media Spotlight, baby, and we are here to highlight. But I wanted to first say, hey, Lakeisha, it's been a long time since
Hey,
we had a chance to connect and get on a broadcast together. It's been a minute, so
yes.
um,
It's been a minute and I have missed you.
I
So,
know,
yes,
same here. Seems like it's been what they say forever, forever,
forever, ever.
forever, ever. Listen, Lakeisha and I, of course, go way back. We have done multiple projects together. And tonight we are coming on to shine a spotlight on volume 2 of Love Language of Grief. And if y'all missed volume 1, you need to go back and get it because I'm telling you, it was some heartfelt stories. It was some things in there that really, when people are going through grief, it's all sorts of stages of grief and it's all sorts of intensity levels of grief. And so the thing about it is what Lakeisha has done as the visionary author of both projects is brought people together so that they can share their story. So they can tell you how they were able to either overcome or how they've been able to, go through the process. And so Lakeisha, volume 2, what made you decide to come back again?
Well, listen, I just had to put my dog out. Y'all heard that. But
Oh, look, I was about to say, look, somebody want to be a guest and you don't look. Okay, come on through. Come on through.
yes. So with volume 2, one was amazing. And for me, so many people gave me their reviews about how the stories helped them. And even with the authors, they felt as if they just had a place to be vulnerable and fall apart and display some things that they don't usually get to display in front of the world because of their businesses, because they of their family dynamics and how they have to be the strong ones and hold everything together for everyone else. And so one did so amazing. Angela, shout out to Angela A. Love Lewis.
Yay.
Yes, one did so amazing, and it was just inevitable that we did a volume 2. And so I'm super excited about volume 2. We have some new authors on this project, as well as some returning authors on this project. And let's just go back into how Love Language of Grief even originated.
Yeah.
Um, you do recall, I was like, God gave me this title and I don't know what to do with it. Angela,
Uh-huh.
he gave me Love Language of Grief and you said, that's good. And, I kept waking up with Love Language of Grief, Love Language of Grief. But for me, I felt as if God gave me that as a defining way of expressing my love for my grief. And he gave me the vision and he allowed me to use that vision to share it with the world. So I'm just excited to see it explode and reach even more people. So that's
Exactly. And I think it's so powerful. And because we have a full house, I want to go ahead and bring people on so they can kind of share their stories. Now, first, what I'm going to do is bring in a couple of the people who were on the first volume. So I'm
yeah.
going to bring to the stage Danny. Danny, how are you?
Hey, how's everybody doing? Blessings on
Amazing,
blessings be upon you.
amazing. So excited to have you here and coming back for not only for kicking it off with volume 1, but you're back for volume 2. And so tell me first and foremost, what made you decide to show up again?
Well, grief is something that, people seem to believe that one day you're just not going to have grief and it's going to be no grieving and it ends and that's it. And I beg to differ. First of all, there's so many different types of grief that you could have, as you both very well know from my first one, the chapter that
Right.
I put in volume 1. Everybody that buys that book, everybody that reads that chapter is like, wow, I didn't, know. And it's like a cliffhanger, a secretive grief.
Right.
But you guys know what it's all about because y'all are in the book with me. But people are like, wow, you had me up until I was like, wow. And I'm like, yeah, but it was a double whammy because it's also grief and losing someone etched in there. Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
what I what I realized in the years of me, writing and doing certain things and dealing with my healing journey is when you're dealing with the healing journey, or when you're embarking upon covering clearing up, certain things, you realize that you just uncover layers of grief, layers.
Yeah.
You might go
Yeah.
through the five different senses of grief, the anger, the depression, the bargaining, the all of that good stuff, but there are layers of grief that you don't touch upon in one sitting. It's just like when I wrote my first book. I just came out with my second book. Well, my volume two, A Pretty Little Bastard Child, just came out 3 weeks ago, so I'm grateful
Congratulations.
for that. Thank you so much. Searching volume one has done, leaps and bounds. That's how I came to you ladies. But what you realize when you're working on healing is, well, what I realized in working on my healing journey, let me keep it on the I, is that there were different layers of grief that I had to still uncover, where it comes to my
Mm-hmm.
mom, where it comes to my dad, where it comes to just the fact that I didn't have a relationship with them. I grieve that. And as a 60 something year old woman now, I realized real deeply in my menopausal years, how much I missed not having a relationship with my mother. So that's another form of grief.
Yeah.
Not so much that she's
Absolutely.
gone, but I grieve the fact that that relationship was the crux of all of the relationships that succeeded or failed in my life. So when
And
Lakeisha
I'm
put
glad
the,
you said
the
that.
the call out, pardon?
I said I'm glad you're sharing that part of it, because sometimes people think it's just when
Yeah.
somebody passes away that's grief, but you're
Right.
sharing that there's other levels to grief.
Yes, absolutely not. And people tend to think, well, I'm not grieving. I don't have nothing. Ain't nobody die in my life. Did you lose a job that you love? Grief is just
Mhm.
love with nowhere else to go. Did you
Absolutely.
break up in a relationship? Did you have, somebody in your life and y'all can't seem to get along as friends anymore? That causes a different level of grief than somebody just actually dying, because now that person is taken away from your life. So yeah, grief has all kinds of different layers. But when Lakeisha called me um and said, hey, look, we're doing it again, of course I needed to come with the second layer. So here I am
Yeah.
again, and there might be a third and a fourth also. If she asked me, I'll be there.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, Miss Patricia, you are back, and we are glad to see you. You were also in volume one, and so I think you got your self on mute. If you will unmute, we would love to hear what made you decide to come back for volume two.
Well, hello, ladies. How is everyone doing on this evening? What made
Awesome,
me come
awesome.
back on volume? Great. What made me come back on volume two was I wasn't finished. Because when I started with my first one, my first chapter, and my chapter was named When Grief Wants to Become Your Friend.
Mhm.
And I had to learn how everybody does not understand your level of grief at that point. And I basically depended on the person for to be there, and then they wasn't there. So I had to take this walk by myself and how to lean more towards on my faith in God. And I also learned how not to allow it to consume me into this little area of just wanting to be by myself. Don't want to communicate with nobody. So this brought a lot of me out, because I thank her for this, because I met some amazing women that had walked in my shoes. So I had to learn how to open up and not just be a concealed to grief.
Amen to that. So
Yeah.
we've got the two who are, and I know it's a couple of others that we got the two, and I see Danny has the first volume in front of her. And so that's just to let you all know what that book looks like. But now we're bringing on the new edition of the new co authors. who are part of Volume 2 for the first time. And I'm getting ready to bring them on to the stage. So welcome, Miss V. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Angela?
Doing great. Welcome, Sean. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Doing great. Welcome, Miss Joyce. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. Welcome, Ebony. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Fantastic. Super excited to have you all here. And Lakeisha, I know it just makes you like a proud mama when you get to see everybody on here showing up, doing their thing and sharing their story. And so let's go back and say that in volume 2, you have a special title to it, which is When the Love Still Speaks. So Lakeisha, I'm gonna throw it to you first. Tell us what made you go in that direction. You, you're on mute.
So Danny actually touched on it earlier when she said that grief has multiple layers, and you can't put a time frame on grief. You can't control anyone's grief. You can't tell anybody how to grieve, when to grieve, where to grieve. So the love still speaks is it was a defining moment for me because yes, in volume 1 I wrote love letters to each one of my loved ones. But that doesn't mean that my grief is now gone. So the love still speaks was a way of saying, hey, even though volume 1 helped me to um put a finger on my grief, it helped me to heal portions of my grief or work through portions of my grief. My grief is still here. It still lives. The love still lives. The love will never die. So when the love still speaks, it was just right. It was right.
It was right. I love it. I love it. Miss V, would you introduce yourself? Let us know if you're a first time author and what's the title of your chapter?
Okay, so my name is V. I am a first time author. This is the first time I've done anything like this.
Wow,
So
congratulations.
yes. What was the second part of your question?
What's the name of your chapter?
Okay, I'm a little nervous, so y'all
Yes.
had to forgive me. My chapter is named Remembering Her.
Remembering
And
her.
the her in question is not the person that I lost, it's myself. So I felt like I think I had a lot of complicated layers to my grief, mainly because I wasn't free to grieve. The person that I lost was actually my ex-husband.
Okay. Okay.
And, it's when people are sympathetic towards your loss, there's a support system there that's just automatic. Oh, she lost her mom. Oh, she lost her brother. Oh, we have to support her. But they're not quite as sympathetic when there's a divorce. And so I found myself grieving in private and putting on the face for the world. And that just led to a journey that really showed me who I was. So hence the title. I didn't share everything about my journey in this chapter just because I do plan to do my own project.
Very
But
good.
most of the people that I did allow to read it, they were like, well, what happened next? I'm like, you just going to have to buy my book when it comes out. You can't be getting no freebies.
Stop for them. Stop for them. Love it.
That part.
You know what? I'm so glad that you shared this portion of it because when people say your story can help someone else, do you know how many people are out there who are grieving someone, whether it's an ex-spouse, whether it's an ex, whatever in the relationship, it's layers to things. And just because you all are no longer in a marriage doesn't mean there's not still love, doesn't mean that you don't care. I mean, you share memories. In some cases, if you have children together or grandchildren together, you share that. You share mutual friends. So a lot of things that end on paper don't always end just because it's over. And so I think it's a group of people out there who will resonate with your story. And it's very bold of you to come out and talk about it and even take it a step further to get ready to plan your own book. So shout out to you for that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And might I add that she says she's a first time author, but she wrote that like a seasoned vet, baby.
Oh, season.
She did. And it's amazing. And I can't wait for the book to be released because, man, when I tell you some stories in this book that I had to bring the tissue out for. Hers
What?
is one of them. Yes. Hers is one
Wow.
of them. Hers is one of them for sure.
Wow. Wow. Well, we are looking forward to it. Thank you for the setup. So everybody knows we're going to be checking it out, looking for the stories. And Sean, I want you, as the man of the group, coming in, sharing your story. What made you say, you know what, I'm going to be a part of this thing?
Hello. It's kind of like pulling teeth, you know. You need to open up, you know. on
Okay.
this, on this, on
Sean
this
pulling
level.
teeth. He's experienced now. Look, people ain't grinning and they're happy about that.
Right. It's just at this moment, you know what I mean? when they come out, they is released. Yeah.
Look, that's all right. Go ahead and say whatever's on your heart.
Well, when I there were we came to a lot of grief after COVID-19. Well, you know, we dealt with a lot of loss or what have you before then, but it really hit after that. It's like you know, a lot of people really died. They died then, and then it was like people started just doing other stuff. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
This I'm a first time author. My name is Sean Copeland. Um, First time writing. Well, not writing. I did it in college a little bit. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Where we had to turn in all our reports and stuff like that.
Right.
They taught me a lot of stuff about writing. Over wrote an actual chapter in a book. So we ran across this on Facebook where Lakeisha was introducing the book with other authors can come in. I said, I'm not going to let this pass by without telling, you know, the story.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, like I said, entrepreneur, different walk of life. You know, went through a lot of different things. You know, I could, I guess after this, we all could write 10 more books. Things that we've been through, but just touching on the part of the grief piece of loss of a sibling. You know, never knew that losing a sibling would hit so hard. You know, but the thing about what I did this time, I decided to face it head on. I didn't let it linger. I said, when this happens, I'm going to deal with it now. You know, because I didn't want it to come back later to, you know, to have to deal with it and go through it like it happened, like when it happened, you know.
Right.
So I might add, me and Sean are actually from the same area, same neighborhood.
Okay.
Sean actually was a pillar in getting me through losing my brother. Sean spoke at my brother's funeral.
Okay.
Sean was there by my side through the entire services, you know, through everything, and he never stopped checking on me. You know, so
That's
when he reached out and said he wants to be a part of the project, I was shocked because I never know. Sean's quiet. He's quiet to a certain. He's quiet to a certain degree. So I was really shocked, you know, when he reached out about it. But I was like, sure, come on, you know. And knowing that he had lost a sibling as well, I knew that this would be a great fit for him as well. So yeah.
Absolutely. And Sean, you know, commending you for, you know, stepping up and speaking at the services. So I'm thinking that would have opened you up so you wouldn't be shy anymore. But
well, I guess it's the persona. You know what I mean? You're going to have being a man. I want to be macho. I don't want to let people know I'm vulnerable. You know what I mean?
Right. Say less. I got you. But you know what, Sean? I mean, I'm glad that you even started off because we were talking about COVID. And the reality is during COVID time, there was loss on so many different levels. not only in the fear of losing someone, but it was transitions in jobs where people were working from home. It was separation and isolation, and there was so many things going on to where people probably didn't even know how to process it. Even now, you still have people who process, who are still fearful, who don't know, or who, you just can't even explain to see the numbers run up like it was, with the number of people in the hospital, the number of people who were passing away. And those things trigger a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, a lot of sadness, on top of physically having to deal with a sibling or someone else that you love passing away. It's a lot that goes on with that. And as Danny said earlier, the layers of grief, the things that, you think 1 minute, okay, I've grieved X number of years. You can smell somebody's cologne and say, oh my God, or their perfume and say, oh my God, that just made me think of such and such. And now I'm crying and I was just a minute ago and that just changed things for me. But that's the power of love that has stopped in grief, and it comes in waves, and there's no timetable. There's no, I got to be hard. I got to, because sometimes as hard as you want to be, it still can knock you off your feet. So I commend you for showing up and saying you got to be a part of it, and not letting that stop you in any shape, form, or fashion.
Right, Ms. Anna, you read me like a book. Hey, what color is my Kool-Aid?
Listen, thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate it. Miss Joyce, I'm going to move on to you. Tell me about yourself. Tell me what made you decide to be a part of this project, and what is the title of your chapter?
My chapter is called Always in My Heart. And I want to start by saying, when I was growing up, and I'm 82, so I've been growing up for a long time.
Did you say 82, Miss Joyce?
Yes, 82.
Yes.
Miss Joyce, what you rubbing on that skin? Wait, we're gonna have to. You stay on after the broadcast so you can let us all know what you're doing, what you eating, what you drinking.
When I saw the post, Danny was I was Danny's 6th grade teacher, and we have, as I said in my interview yesterday, we found each other on Facebook, and we are now joined at the hip. So when I saw the word grief, it just hit me that it's a subject that I don't talk about, but I have a lot of deep feelings. And when I was growing up, my family taught me, don't wear your heart on your sleeve. And I'm a person who wears my heart on my sleeve, no matter what they told me. So as a result, I was vulnerable very early, and not praised. When I sat down to write, I just knew that the word grief struck me in the heart. And I didn't know what I was going to say, but I knew I had plenty to say. But when I actually sat down, I came up with the idea of writing about the 4 people whose death has impacted me the most. And you're all much younger and didn't live through this, but I talk about President John Kennedy, and talk about Bobby Kennedy, Senator Kennedy, Kobe Bryant, and my mother. And Kobe, his Mamba mentality is the philosophy of my life. And so I'm in a number of Lakers groups, and there hasn't been a day, as I wrote in that section of this article, that people in this group, not one single day that people don't talk about him in the last 6 years. And I have, let's see if I can get it. I don't know if you can see this. Let's see if you can see it. No, I guess not. You can see the Mamba mentality.
Yes.
Okay, and then there's a picture of Kobe. and it sits right by my computer. And there isn't a day that goes by that I don't look at that and rule my life. It helps inspire me. And my mother was the most important person in my life and the person I love more than anybody else. So even though she died 47 years ago, and the others are chronological, but not my mother, I wanted to save to the last.
Yeah.
And what I learned, I was a teacher for 34 years, and I realized after doing this that this article is teaching. It's just who I am. You all didn't live through this, and I am bringing you. I relived every moment, and I'm bringing you the history that you don't know, and and I grieve differently than most people do. I grieve a long, long time, and there is a step that I don't feel, and I was criticized sorely for that. Nobody wanted to be around me. And what I learned is, everybody has a different way of grieving, but don't judge me, and I won't judge you. And it hurts when people are push you aside and don't. They want to move on. Not all people, but the people who were around me wanted to move on, and I couldn't. And I was highly criticized. And what I realized, after doing these chapters, these chapters of these people, there is a process and a change. Each one affected me. My grief is different in each one.
Yeah.
And I should have known from John Kennedy was the first person's death I had to deal with, and it took me a long time, and it was devastating. And what I write in one sentence in it, I am Jewish, but when I heard that John Kennedy had been shot, I went to my knees. I got on my knees, and that's not something in the Jewish religion. And I prayed to God that he would be saved. And I grieving for me is really hard, and that's why always in our heart is the title. I wrote something for my mother's gravesite that you'll see in it in the article. But people live on; they live on through us, and the more stories we share about them, and the more we think about them, and they're still here. I mean, I talk to my mother all the time, and Kobe I speak to. I'm walking, and that's wonderful. I don't see that as a bad thing. I see that as a wonderful thing to deal with. It's a positive way of dealing with grief.
Right.
And we're richer because of the people we've lost who meant a lot to us. And
absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think it's really important, for people who go through grief, and the reality is we all have went through grief, in some shape, form, or fashion. You've lived long enough, you're going to experience grief some way. And to be able to connect to a support group, to be able to find people who can share your love of this person, where you all can talk about something, or I remember my brother and I, both of our parents have passed, and our sisters have passed. And just to remember jokes, and say, you remember when, mama said this, or remember when Tina said that, or whatever. It's something about having that connection that, even though your heart still breaks, even though you still feel sad, can give you a moment of I feel good. It's like endorphins being released, because you think, wow, this person has really made an impact on me. So the more that you can connect, because I think sometimes people feel like you don't want to talk about it, but there's something beautiful about sharing your experience with somebody who also has a similar experience. It doesn't hurt, not to say it stops hurting, but it hurts less, because you're able to share how you feel, share a laugh, share a smile, share their song, and say, oh my God, you remember what happened then? And it just kind of, it shifts how the grief hits you in that particular moment. I'm not saying it won't break you down, 2 weeks later or 2 months later or 2 years later, but it's something about having that support and shared experiences that really makes it a lot easier sometimes. Thank you so much for sharing that. All right, Miss Ebony, you up
If I
last.
may, just want to add, Angela, just want to add something real quick before you call on somebody else. It just kind of piggyback off of what you said. It goes a little something like this: pain shared is pain lessened.
Mm. Pain shared is pain lessened. For everybody in the audience who is listening to that, who are dealing with grief, because again, you have things inside of you that when you lose whatever it is, whether it's relationships, a loved one, whether it's a job, whether it is whatever, because there are multiple things. But don't be afraid to share with somebody, whether it's somebody who knows, like or whether it's somebody that is going through and you share your experience. You don't know how that's going to help you in some way.
Absolutely.
All
Miss
right.
Joyce don't even know she inspired me to seek out sibling support groups. And the reason being is because after reading her chapter,
Mm-hmm.
I saw the value and the importance in having that support system, that
That's
community.
good. That's
I
good.
personally want to thank Miss Joyce for writing the way that she did because it really impacted me.
Thank you very much.
That's a blessing because you know what? Sometimes, and the reality is, there's a support group out there for a lot of things. We just may not always hear about it, but you do your research and you will find that 9 times out of 10, what you're going through, there's already somebody who's created a group for it. And the
Mhm.
thing about it is, when you get in a group that's catered to your level of loss, guess what? You're not by yourself. So you don't have to feel awkward.
That's right.
You don't have to feel crazy. You don't have to feel like, I know everybody's looking at me like, oh, you should have gotten over this by now. You're in a group of people who understand. We come together because we still feel we're sharing our emotions and our thoughts and things like that. And you can do that freely without feeling guilty, without trying to hide, because sometimes when you're around loved ones and they're looking at you all crazy, you're like, oh, I'm okay. And you tend
Mhm.
to kind of brush it off because you don't want them to worry. You don't want them to be stressed out. You don't want them to think you're going to do something to yourself. But the reality is, when you get into support groups, you can be free to have conversations like that. So I think it's really important. Very, very important. Miss Ebony, okay, come on, it's your turn. I'm
Hi.
good.
I'm good. How you doing?
Fantastic. So tell me
Good.
about your chapter, and is this your first time writing, and what brought you to this experience?
This is my first time writing officially. Miss
Okay.
Keisha brought me to this experience. Of course, I
Okay.
saw her advertising for authors, and I journal a lot. I've been journaling since I was 14, so I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can do this."
Mm-hmm.
Inside, that's how I felt. But then once I actually talked to Keisha and it was like, no, we're really going to do this. Um, Going back to what Sean said earlier, being vulnerable, that wasn't my thing, but I did it. I did it. And my chapter is called Emra's Garden. And I used a pen name basically, and that helped me create space for me to process everything without fear. So I
Mm.
also thought like it allowed the message to lead instead of my identity. And
Okay.
I just felt like that was the most powerful part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And um everyone really touched on it before, like grief isn't something we get over. And specifically with the title, I wanted to think of it like it's something that we tend to. So I was just seeing my grief as like a garden. Some days it's
Yeah.
overgrown, some days it's blooming, but it's always, alive because love is always alive. So it deals with a
That's
relationship
right.
in my
That's right.
family. So I'm very private, so this was a great experience for me.
Honestly, out of your comfort zone. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so definitely out of my comfort zone, but I'm excited and I was like, I don't even know what I'm gonna say because everybody's intro was phenomenal. I'm just like, I want to read everybody chapter, but yeah, I'm really excited. So thank you.
That is so good. And I am excited for you, for all of you first time authors, because the reality is it doesn't stop with your chapter. What you have done is open up the door for other opportunities. You open up the door to speak. You've opened up the door, to have these type of interviews, to maybe, go into places where you can encourage somebody else because you've been through it. And I love the concept of comparing it to a garden because people can resonate with that, and sometimes when you're dealing with something and you don't know how to articulate it, you can compare it to something that you are familiar with. It's like baking a cake. You know how you tell somebody, well, if they've never been a baker, they may not understand, but then you put it into that term where this is what they do. Maybe for a mechanic, you tell him, okay, well, if the car don't crank, then what? Imagine that. If your heart is broken and you feel like I can't get out of bed, I can't crank my engine, I can't get started for the day because I'm so overwhelmed, they understand that. So if I came to you with my car, what would you tell me? Well, I got to open up the hood. I got to do this. I got to do that. I'm checking this. I'm checking that, seeing that the fluids are good. And from there, you equate your grief to the mechanic, and now you navigate that. You equate your grief to a garden, and some days it's overgrown. Some days you got to pull out weeds. Some days you got to make sure you tend to it. But you also got to know that just as much as it needs sunshine, it needs rain.
Yes.
So
I'm
it's
sorry, I
all
was muted. I'll say, yep.
yes. So y'all tell me, how many of you actually journaled before you started doing this? I know Ebony said she did. Who else actually does journaling? Miss Joyce. Okay. 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 Just about everybody. Okay. Okay. So did the journaling process help you when it came down to actually putting your thoughts on paper?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It
I
made
went and
it
grabbed like
easier.
all five of mine. And I was like, which one am I going? Oh
Eeny,
yeah.
meeny, miny, mo. This one.
Right,
Before I
right.
started to write, before I became an author, um, I threw punches at my paper in like my journal was my way of releasing my anger, saying the things that I couldn't say out loud. My way of shedding my tears without shedding my tears in front of the world. My journal was my punching bag for a long time. Um, and then we sort of navigated their way to becoming besties. So I journal every day, every morning, every night now. My journal is my best friend. So
Wow. That's awesome. Yes, ma'am,
I
Miss
don't
Joyce.
journal as much as I used to, but um, my journaling helped me to, when it was time to actually go into labor with Pretty Little Bastard Child, which was my first book. Um, some of you guys know the story. I wrote the first 10 pages of my manuscript in 2005, and life started lifing. I was still journaling, but I wasn't focused on the actual pain. And because I was afraid, it helped, but I was afraid of what family would think, what people would
Mm-hmm.
say, what, stuff. But around that time, also, I was also writing songs. So
Mm-hmm.
I was performing as a recording artist. So it was different
Oh, okay.
stuff being written, but journaling helped me get to that place where I was no longer afraid to write it, because I think what people do is they think it, but
Mm-hmm.
the first question that people want to publish do, they well, how did you get to put it down? Write it. Like, you got to write it. You got to pick up a pen, or you got to pick up your keyboard, and you got to get it on paper. And usually that comes from people who haven't journaled, or who have never even written a poem. You know what I'm saying? Or something
Right.
like that. Where the thoughts come, but they stop right here, or they stop right there, and it never comes free flowing. But it's a good thing. A journal is definitely helpful with even with these books of us sharing our grief, and how we got to the sweet spot, and how we're opening up about the grief. A journal going along. Hint, hint, Lakeisha. a journal going along with maybe volume 3. Hint, hint, Lakeisha, might help people to get through all of the feelings that they brought up to the surface. Maybe they need a grief, you know, release journal to go along with volume 3 of Love Language
Lakeisha
of Grief. You
noted.
know,
Lakeisha
just
noted.
put it out there.
Noted.
Just put it out there. I'm just putting it out.
Right.
Noted.
I think actually that's a great idea because you're right. As people read or write, they have to have somewhere for that to go. Miss Joyce, you had your hand up a moment ago.
Yeah, I'm a teacher. I raised my hand.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. My journal experience is very different. I was an English major in college who had trouble with long books, and it was the early time introductory courses were all very expansive reading, and I learned that I was a C writer no matter how hard I tried.
Mm-hmm.
And then somebody gave me a journal for my birthday when I was in my 20s. And what I realized as I started to write was that I may have been an essay C, but I wasn't a journal writing C. I really learned to respect myself and my writing and my feelings. And I found journal writing to be about self-awareness. And my only rule was that I had to be honest. I couldn't, I had to continue writing no matter, even if I had to change subjects, what I had to continue. And I journaled for 5.5 years, almost every day, a long time ago. And now I journal when I'm trying to figure something out. But the major thing that it gave me was the recognition that I could write, that I had a lot of feelings, and I've hardly ever reread anything I wrote, and I have books and books of journals. But I have a lot of self-respect, and that comes from, yeah, I can do that. I just was in the wrong place, but I had the ability, and I just had to uncover that.
That's powerful. That's powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that. So let me ask you this, and Sean, I'll start with you. Based on writing your chapter now, what is it that you want the readers to get from what you've put on paper?
Writing that chapter, just being able to, I guess, reflect and to move past the grief, but to embrace it. I put the one statement that I wrote. It's a good place to visit, but we don't have to live there. We don't have to live in grief. You know what I mean? So if you get that, that'll be one thing. Like that grief, like we said, it comes in the love language. It still speaks. Like we can see something, like you said earlier, we can smell something, and then it brings that flood of emotions back.
Right.
So in that moment in time, if we just can embrace that love language, then and if you might have to shed a tear in that moment, you know what I mean? Embrace that, and then, well, okay, that was then. Okay, now I'm here. You know what I mean? And that love language is still speaking, and that love that didn't die is still with you. We can get that.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. And I want to ask you another thing too, because Lakeisha mentioned that you were very instrumental in helping her when her brother passed. A lot of people say that I don't know what to do when somebody, passes away, and you don't know what to say, or how did you know how to be there in the manner that you was?
Wow, that's great. That's a great question. So in some cases, like you said, we don't know what to say. So I've learned that in that situation, a moment of silence is in order. That moment of silence is very powerful.
Come on, Sean.
Just being there, just being in that comfort, being that comfort for that person, is just being the presence. You know what I mean? And that's the most powerful thing, because sometimes And when a person is grieving, you know, I can say the wrong thing. And it make that grief 10 times worse. So that just being the presence and being a reminder, well, the person can look at you and like, wow, I remember the time when I had everything. We was all together. And if I say something in that moment, I mess it up.
Yes, because I'm gonna tell y'all, the reality is for a lot of people, we have cliche words that, of course, everybody's, with my deepest sympathies and my condolences. I'm sorry for your loss. Or, people say, well, they're in a better place. But the reality is, I don't want to hear that. If I'm lost, if I'm lost somebody I love, there is no better place but with me. You know what I'm saying? And although you may know that in your lustful mind, what they say, to be absent from the body is to be present for the Lord, with the Lord, if you believe in Christianity, if you believe in something different, that's not what you think. But even when you're a Christian, you still will think, I don't care that you feel like they're in a better place. I want them right now. It doesn't matter to me that you feel like, oh, well, their suffering is over. I know. And even though you may say, my mom had cancer. So yes, I don't want her to suffer. But at the same time, I was like, please don't leave me. So it's a war in between that. And sometimes when people say those things, I know they mean well, but sometimes it's better to just sit there and show up and not say anything else, because you don't know. You already borderline, you already grieving, you already sad. Anger is right there at the right. Is one word away from you want to punch somebody in their mouth because they've said the wrong thing, and you're trying to restrain yourself, but your emotions are all over the place. And so I'm glad you shared that part, because it is so many people who say, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do. Just show up.
And that was what was so impactful about Sean's presence. Many people may not have. I was in a zone, losing my brother the way that I did and not having answers, any closure or what happened, or, just being stuck at the moment where we received that phone call. A lot of people didn't know how to just shut up and be there, And I was literally a ticking time bomb. I'm not afraid to say it. I was a ticking time bomb. And Sean showed up and he was silent, but it was impactful. When I fell apart, he may have rubbed my back and, let me get it out. But he was there and he allowed me he held that space for me so that I could fall apart.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know I was there like that.
Myself on the back. I didn't know I was doing all that.
I didn't know I did that. What happened?
You know what? It's beautiful.
There was a lot of people that were there. It was a lot of people that were there that had those cliche sayings. And I remember at a moment where I left my own house because it was too much to bear. God makes no mistakes. He's in a better place.
That's a big one right there. God makes no mistakes. And even though you can say that, but who wants to hear that at that moment?
And I did hear it. I got up and I politely left my own house and I left everybody there because I had to get away.
Right.
So you may not have known the impact that you made, Sean, but I just want to publicly thank you for showing up in the manner that you did, because you were silent and I needed that at that present moment. So thank you.
Good job, Sean. Good job. Good job. Miss V. So
may I say something?
Go ahead, Miss Patricia.
Yeah. This all goes back to my chapter in the book that I have, and my title is The Aftermath. Everybody's there doing it. They are there with you. They are saying those are cliches, but what really happens afterwards? Who are there for you afterwards? So that's what my title is about. The aftermath.
The aftermath. That, you know what? And that is so necessary. And I'm loving that is in volume 2, because sometimes you talk about one thing and then you can come back and really talk about what happens, because people show up. They bringing Coca-Colas, baby. They bringing chicken. They bringing potato salad. They
Yeah,
bringing all
yeah,
kinds of
yeah.
stuff.
The phone
You
calls
know,
stop, the text messages, the food stop, everything
mhm,
just stops. So what
mhm.
happens then?
And what
Yeah.
happens
Where do
then?
we go from here?
And
Yeah.
that's good. That's good that you brought that
Mm,
up. And that really speaks to the fullness of this book, that you all have so many different layers of information and things that people can take away. Because bottom line, even though you went through something, what you're going through and how you processed it, somebody needs to know that, or somebody needs to hear that. Because again, Sean, like I said, some people don't know how to be there. They're
right,
afraid of that. You told them how to do that. Miss Joyce said, I'm part of support group. So if I want to talk about Kobe Bryant all day, every day, I call my support group because they want to talk about the same thing I do. Or Miss Patricia says
right.
the aftermath. The aftermath is the hardest part. I'm not gonna say the hardest because of
Yes,
course the hardest is losing somebody. But what do you do when everybody's there? Because the average person is gonna say, oh, somebody came over. Hey, let me make sure you're good. What do you need? Oh, well, you got to be chicken over here. It's a drink. You need a drink. So you go into host or hostess mode because you're running away from your thoughts because you don't want to sit there and
right,
deal with it. But when
right,
everybody's gone, what you doing? You sitting there looking at the TV, but you're not looking at TV. Or you're sitting there staring out the window, but you're not seeing anything. Or somebody's calling
right.
on the phone and you looking at them, you're like, if I answer this phone, I'm gonna cry. Or if somebody comes up on you and touches you, just like, don't touch me, because if you touch me, I'm tears are so they
Mhm,
just right here on the edge. One rub on my back, I'm gonna probably fall out on you. Those things are the reality, and nobody
mhm.
ever really thinks about what am I gonna do when it's 2 weeks later?
Hmm.
What am
Right,
I gonna do
right.
when it's 2 months later?
After the party.
After the party,
Yes.
hey,
What am I going to do when I got to go to the house and clean out the apartment? What am I
Yes.
going to
that
do
Yes,
part.
when that
exactly.
last thing, when that last person leaves out of the funeral parlor and
Yes.
or
Yes.
we leave the cemetery and I'm watching that casket go down in the ground? That is when it is bam.
Mm.
Because after that, you're going to go to the repast. And after the repast, the last person that cleaned up that last table and wiped it off and said, if you need anything, call me. Trust me, that's usually the person that's not going to show up when you call them. And
Mm.
Ooh,
that's the
Exactly.
aftermath that you're talking about, right, Miss
Yeah.
Patricia? All
That's
right.
it.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Absolutely.
it.
that's the aftermath. And you know what? In the
That's the
aftermath,
Absolutely.
aftermath.
when you hear that, you think of destruction that has happened, and all that is
Mhm.
left is like chaos because it's in
Yes.
the aftermath of a storm, the aftermath of a fire, the aftermath of death or grief.
Hmm.
It's
Mhm.
not a pretty sight. But people want to be around for the interim because, making sure, bringing chicken and all that is good for, the first week or so. Because people feel like, "Oh, okay, well, we're going to show up until the funeral. And then after the funeral, you're going about your business because that's when everybody got to go back to work and they go on. Your heart is shattered in the
Yes.
aftermath.
Yeah.
And picking up
And then
all
I
those pieces.
had experienced that too because we had kept my mother's van for like a year in the yard. So when we decided to let the van go, and when I seen them put that van on that record to haul it out, I just melted. I mean, I just crushed because that was something I was holding on to. That was one of my aftermaths. I held on to that van because I know that was her van. Nobody else was going to get in it. But when we decided to let it go, a piece of her went with me again because I thought she was gone, but a piece went then. That
Mm.
van, her van.
Yes.
Because you know what?
And then that's
Mm,
when the big
Sin is
release
yeah.
came.
different things. You may know that it needs to go. You may know that y'all made arrangements, but until it actually leaves, that's when all
Yes.
the floodgates just kind of like, oh my God.
Yes. Absolutely.
I'm glad you did the
Right.
aftermath. That,
That's
that's
when
really
you have to face the reality. Yeah. That's the reality.
absolutely
Like,
Yes. Reality came.
yeah, yeah. Because
for
as
sure.
long as that van is in the yard, you still have a piece of your mom there with you.
Mm-hmm.
But when
Yes.
that van
Mm-hmm.
has to go away and that space is empty, guess what, Lakeisha?
Yes.
Is very appropriate. The love is all you have to still
Yes.
speak.
When the love still speaks. Absolutely.
That's good. That's good. Miss V, I want to. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You can tell Miss V, talk to Miss V. Well, I'll just quickly say this time I didn't write about the death of my loved ones. I opened up and came a little more vulnerable and wrote about grieving other topics in my life, grieving my identity. When the fixer broke is one of my chapters. I actually wrote two, and the second chapter is called I Fell in Love with an Addict. And I talk about grieving my identity in this book because people don't realize you can grieve your identity. You can grieve losing yourself in transitions and phases and things of that nature. So,
who I used to be. Sometimes you can look in the mirror and not even recognize yourself because you went so far into somebody else's realm of existence that you don't even remember what it used to be like when you used to be free, when you used to be able to, enjoy life and it wasn't trapped inside where you are now.
Absolutely.
That's good. That's good.
So it comes from
make
all
sure these
stages.
people get this book. But Miss V, before we do anything, I want to hear from you. What is it that you want people to get from reading your chapter?
Well, to be honest, I didn't care if they got anything from reading the chapter. I'm gonna just be honest. It was for
Better
me.
be honest with it. I
It was
love
for me
this.
because nobody allowed. I felt like just a quick example. One of my family members just recently read the chapter, and the first thing they told me how offended they were by what I had to write. And I knew that was going to happen because that's part of why I wanted to write it, because I'm tired of having to tell my story through other people's lenses. I'm worried about your feelings. I'm carrying what you got going on, but nobody's letting me speak my truth. And quite honestly, the shit wasn't about you. Oh, excuse me. It wasn't about you. It was about me. And yeah, I sound angry when I say it because I've been carrying that anger for a minute and I never really got to express it because nobody would give me the space to do so. So I had to make my own space. And to be honest with you, I feel like my loss reveal more about my life than the life I was living, if that makes sense.
It does.
Like after everything, I cleared out about 95% of the people in my life. I feel good about it. I'm good with it. I'm gonna grieve you now because we ain't gonna be speaking no more. I have made a lot of decisions that fear kept a lot of people in my life that shouldn't have been there. Title kept a lot of people in my life that shouldn't have been there. And what his death showed me about myself is that I have a strength that I've been pulling on this whole time, but I didn't realize it. And I lost myself in the process of a lot of things. But now that I'm firmly back on solid ground with who I am, you don't get to police my tone, my choices, my behavior, and nothing else. So, you feel how you feel about it. That's why initially I was going to write under a pen name because I live in a little country town. But then I thought about it and I have went through so much to find V again, the version of V I want to be. And damn if I'm going to give this story out under a false name where you don't even know I'm talking about you, because I want you to know I'm talking about you. I want you to know.
I
I'm not
love
going to
it.
apologize.
Go on, girl.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Mic
What is
drop.
this story about? Because the reality is
Clock
somebody
it.
needs to know that at this very moment, you have been appeasing other people. You have been pleasing other people. You have lived your life on walking on eggshells, trying to make sure people were happy who don't care nothing about you in the reality of things. And if this was the release you needed to get the V back that you know existed inside of you somewhere, then no apologies necessary because
That's
grief
right.
again comes in so many facets and forms. And when you can find yourself and be happy with yourself, I don't care if it's two people with you or 200, you're going to be okay
Oh, yeah.
because you have stepped up and decided to put Miss V first. And that is right there, baby, worth every sentence you wrote down in this book.
And when Miss Patricia was talking, I'm sorry, I want to get this out.
Go ahead.
Everybody gets that. That's what I was talking about earlier. I didn't have to worry about an aftermath because they never showed up. They didn't show up when he died. They didn't show up when the wake happened. They didn't show up to the funeral. They didn't show up after. I went through all of that by myself, and I still do. I can't even share memories with people about him because they hated him more than they loved me. Their hate for him won't allow them to comfort me. So it's a different thing when you're walking that path by yourself. I would have loved for somebody brought me a piece of chicken or come sat with me and hold my hand, but nobody did that. I had to put myself together and go do what I had to do. But afterwards, it took me about a year, but it's coming. It's coming.
Amen. And you know what? The reality is, what they say, money and death show you who somebody really is.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So true.
You see the real person when one of those two things happens, somebody messed over the money or somebody passed away. You see the real side of people. They can be as sweet as sugar prior, but let something happen and it's a whole different story. So absolutely. And I'm hate that was your experience, but at the same time, sometimes God allows things to happen because it wouldn't have changed anything prior, had you not, seen and experienced that. So shout out to you for taking the time and putting it out there and saying, you know what, I'm not going to change my name. I want you to know what I said.
I shouldn't have changed
I
their name.
said what I said.
I said what I said. All right, we're about to wrap at the top of the hour. Lakeisha, do you have anything else that you want to say as it pertains to the book and where they can find it at, how they can get it, when is it going to be released, all those good things?
Stay tuned. The only thing left to say is stay tuned. It will be released March 15th, and I'm super excited about it.
Yeah.
But before we do go, I just want to thank each and every one of the contributing authors because this project could not have come to fruition without you all and your vulnerability. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And that journal is coming it's coming, Miss Daddy.
I'm gonna hold you to that. I'm gonna hold you to that, right? I'm gonna be on the phone like Keisha, with a journal. What's up? You working on the journal?
Absolutely, it's coming. But also, I just want to thank you all for entrusting me to be able to guide you all through this process, especially with V and Ebony. Sean quiet, but they private. So
and there is a difference. There is a difference.
Sean quiet, but they private. And so yeah. But thank you all for trusting me to spearhead this project. But thank you for showing up for yourselves. It wasn't for me. You showed up for you. So thank you.
Absolutely. Well, listen, thank you all so much for being here. It has been a pleasure. I love everything that you shared, the titles that you talked about, the behind the scenes of the story that you wrote, because again, just this little bit is enough for people to understand that this is a must get book. March the 15th, make sure you support them and what they do. And then know, y'all, like I said, just because you wrote a chapter don't mean it ends there. So much more that comes on behind there. So, don't let it stop there. There's opportunities all around you. Tap into what it's going to lead to. You see Danny holding up her stuff. It doesn't have to stop there. She's still going, like the Energizer Bunny, still going. But
wait a minute. Let me find some other stuff. I got all kinds of merch, y'all. And check out the documentary. And I got a documentary that's out right now on Women to Women TV. My first self-produced, directed, and executive produced. It's a memoir. I mean, it's a documentary about Harlem, about Sugar Hill, which was a very affluent African American community in Harlem. And it's on Women to Women TV. Download it on your Roku, on your cell phone, on your iPhone, and check it out. Thank you.
All right.
And before we end, Angela, we do have other authors who could not be here tonight. So I just want to recognize them as well. We have 3 more contributing authors who have great stories as well. So that is it. I love you all. Bye.
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 Bye. Thank you.